From the border wall to the so-called shutdown and all the rest. The left has gone nuts. And by the way, I don't just mean within the Democrat Party, I mean in the media. I have to listen to this network news that many of you probably don't get. And it's as if they take their script from Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. It's repulsive. They're repulsive. And the media have gotten despotic. They censor people. They decide what issues are permissible to discuss now and what issues are not. And if you disagree with the media and the Democrat Party, one and the same, you're a denier. Or you're a white supremacist. Or you're stupid. Or whatever the case may be. Now, the President of the United States wants to give a speech to the nation, 9 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night, on the border issue and the so-called shutdown issue. I call it so-called shutdown because the vast majority of the government is open. And the media have been reporting on this incessantly. Most of us don't even realize the government is, quote-unquote, shut down. But we all realize the border's open. And so they want to hear what the president has to say when he's leaving the White House or he's getting on a helicopter. They're yelling questions at him. At a press conference, they're yelling questions at him. They're yelling questions at his surrogates. Sarah Huckabee Sanders and others. But now the president says, all right, look, I want to explain to the American people what my position is without being filtered by you. And so now they're debating the 4 major networks, or is it 3, whether or not to give the president this airtime. And if they give him the airtime, should they allow the Democrats to reply? Now, folks, this isn't a State of the Union speech where the Democrats get to reply and so forth. The Democrats are all over TV, like an army of stooges, saying almost exactly the same thing. The Republicans, as usual, are in disarray, each one for him or herself, on this issue. I think it's extremely important that the president speak to the American people. Doesn't much matter what the Democrats say afterwards. Doesn't much matter what the media say afterwards. Because we know what they're going to say. But they are constantly bastardizing the president's comments and arguments. Now, this is a position I have supported for a long time. On November 27, 2018, I raised this. Now, I don't do this to pat myself on the back. I do this because I think it's important. And so November 27th, this is what I said. Go ahead. I want to give some advice to the president and his staff over the airwaves here. It's time for a very thoughtful, compelling address to the nation. An address to the nation, 20 or 30 minutes in length, in which you, Mr. President, you take the high road and allow the media to keep biting at your heels like chihuahuas. And explain to the American people that the Democrats simply will not help you secure the border, that the Democrats simply will not help you prevent illegal aliens from pouring into the country, many of whom are violent criminals, and that you have a responsibility as the commander-in-chief to protect this nation. And because the Democrats don't take their equal responsibility of funding this as seriously as you do, that this is the only way that you have as a constitutional matter to force the issue. And there you have it, right, Mr. Producer? Does that end it? Okay. Now, we said more, but I don't want to bore you with the whole thing. And I suspect this will be a well-thought-out speech. And he should stick to it. Stick to it. No need to ad-lib. Stick to it. And he has also brought up the President of the United States the possibility of declaring a national emergency. That is, we have lawlessness on the border. We have organizations, some funded by Soros, some funded by us, some funded by states, that is us, the federal government, that are organizing these marches toward our border of tens of thousands of individuals from time to time. When you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, in fact, over 1 million people a year coming into this country illegally, and we don't know who they are, we don't know what their backgrounds are, we don't know if they're sick, we don't know if they're going to go on welfare, we don't know anything. Because they're coming in illegally and they're violating our immigration laws, they're violating our national sovereignty. Well, yes, in my view, that's a basis for calling a national emergency. Now, you had so-called journalists on television and so-called members of Congress immediately run to the microphones, immediately get in front of the camera saying, that's not legal. President can't do that. And even if it is legal, the president shouldn't do that. Now, what kind of a lame argument is that? The fact of the matter is, the president and his lawyers can make a case. Can make a case under federal law. There's actually a pretty good piece in USA Today by William Cummings and John Fritz. It's being cited a lot, but people never give attribution to people who write, who do the hard work, who put the information out there. So the president can test the National Emergencies Act of 1976. And under the law, the president must cite the specific emergency powers he's activating under existing statutes. And by the way, there are dozens and dozens of reasons that he can, in fact, trigger it. According to the Congressional Research Service, and I printed out their report and I read it, all 20-some pages, there are hundreds of provisions of federal law delegating to the executive extraordinary authority in time of national emergency. Under the powers delegated by such statutes, the president may seize property. That's kind of scary for the leftists out there. Organize and control the means of production. Seize commodities. Assign military forces abroad. Institute martial law. Seize and control all transportation and communication. Regulate the operation of private enterprise. Restrict travel and in a variety of ways control the lives of U.S. citizens. That's the Congressional Research Service. I said Congressional Research Service back in 2007. That's pretty damn scary. President doesn't have any intention of doing any of those things. He wants to secure the border. There's a political party in this country that does not. There's a political party in this country that does not believe in American sovereignty. They do not believe in law and order. They do not believe in American citizenship. They believe in empowering themselves in the Democrat Party, turning purple states blue and red states purple. That's what it's all about. Democrat Party first. Quite frankly, just like the communist regimes. Party first. And the reason they want party first, because that is the institution through which they advance their progressive agenda. Party first. Democrat Party first. And it is wholly, solely under the control of the hard left, the progressive radicals now. So the power of the Democrat Party is more important than the country itself. It just is. Now, Congress can terminate a declared emergency, but it requires a joint resolution. That's a high hurdle. You're going to have to convince the Senate Republicans to do it, although there's enough cowards over there that they might just buckle. So there's nothing extraordinary about this. It's been done dozens and dozens of times, not respecting the border and the border wall, but respecting all kinds of other issues, including matters of war. Now, if I didn't tell you this, you wouldn't even know it. Because they don't tell you this on cable TV. They don't tell you it on network TV. They don't even tell you it on radio. You can look it up yourself. I just gave you the sources. August 30, 2007, CRS report for Congress. National Emergency Powers. Google it. Or Google the USA Today piece. President Trump could declare a national emergency, but would that get him funds for a wall? USA Today by Cummings and Fritz. You see, the amazing thing is this. If you listen to our media, and shame on you if you believe what you listen to, that's a propaganda machine. This president is doing things that are despotic, that are unparalleled, that's never happened before, like his attack on the press. This president's attack on the press is nothing but rhetorical. You should see what past presidents have done to the press, including Barack Milhouse Benito Obama. Tapping phones, intercepting communications, trying to imprison reporters for the New York Times and other publications. Yet they still love him. They still slobber all over him. Why? Because he's a radical progressive, and so are they. So they're willing to overlook that. Or they're willing to overlook FDR's internment of Japanese Americans. They're willing to overlook Woodrow Wilson's censorship operation against them. Because in the end, they believe in the goals, in the policies. Not so with Trump. They despise him. So they say he's a threat to the media. How so? By calling him out by name, reporters and media outlets that deserve to be called out by name? How so? Or if he triggers this emergency action, he's dictatorial. He needs Congress. No, he doesn't. Now, it can be litigated, and Congress can reverse with the joint resolution we just discussed, but this law is in place. It's been in place for over 40 years, and before that, it was in place, too, under a different statutory nomenclature. Lincoln used it. Others have used it. So that's simply not true. And none of this would be necessary but for the fact that under Article 1 of our Constitution, the House of Representatives, now in the hands of the radical leftists, Nancy Pelosi and that crowd, refuses to appropriate the funds to protect this country, to protect our children, to protect our families, to protect our schools, to protect law enforcement, to protect our hospitals from people pouring into this country who do not belong here. I don't care if they're all rocket scientists. I don't care if they're all brain surgeons. If they're not here legally, they don't belong here. It's called the rule of law. And if you don't have the rule of law, you have anarchy. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.